All right, welcome to this informational webinar from ACT Leadership and Brown University School of Professional Studies about team coaching. We have lots of people zooming in here. Thanks for typing in where you're coming from into the chat box. It's nice to know where you're all coming in from. I'm here. I'm a trainer and an executive coach and a team coach. I'm on faculty with ACT and helped co-create this program with the founders, Mike and Aaron. And Katie Coleman here is helping us out as well in the background, but she's just as often in the foreground, trainer and an experienced coach as well. So together, we hope that we'll give you all the information you need to make your decision about whether and when you want to join our team coaching program. Great. Looks like we're covering every time zone in the United States and a couple extra out there. So Katie will keep her eyes on the chat box. So if there is a question coming up, feel free to put it in the chat box and she'll find some ways to insert herself as I'm talking to answer your questions. We have a few questions that were submitted in advance. We're going to say a little bit out loud first about the program. And then I've got a very short keynote deck or a set of slides that we can show you that should illustrate the typical questions we have. And then we can entertain a few more questions at the end. All right. So welcome. We're glad. And there are two of us for almost everything we do at ACT. We have sort of a co-facilitation or co-training model because we think that two brains and four eyes and ears are better than just half of that. It gives you a little bit of a better experience, a more varied experience in what we're up to. So um, I'd love for you to type in the chat box sort of what brings you here today. Just a line about what is bringing you to team coaching, getting interested in it. Um, Assuming that you're already trained coaches or very near becoming a team coach. And just have that in the space or what you'd like to learn. And just as you do that, I'll say a little bit about why we created the program and who it's for, um, and a little bit about ACT and the university as well. So, we created team coaching really a little bit organically because we found that lots of our practitioners and also places where we were leading leader as coach type training inside organizations, people extending their leadership range with coaching modality, coaching mindsets, coaching skills were finding it was really effective when they were dealing with people one-on-one. And they thought, how could we leverage this in a group format or a team format as well? Because where I work, we need something, right? We need something like this that encourages the best of people and helps move them forward. And so we started to build first module of our team coaching program, and then we extended it into two modules just because it was bursting with content. So what we found is that it allowed leaders and organizations to get a more team-oriented view of what was needed in organizations and individual practitioners to extend their range of what they can offer their clients, right, beyond one-on-one coaching. So most team coaches also have a one-on-one coaching practice. And together, they're able to offer more. So that's sort of how the program came about. We did some pilots with organizations first, and then we decided to create a publicly oriented program. And we chose to do that with the Brown University School of Professional Studies because we had already had a relationship developed with them over time, creating our individual leadership and performance coaching certification program. We call it LPCC. So if you hear me say that, that's what I'm referring to. And so that we just feel like there's a real alignment in terms of the values match and the level of professionalism that we like to bring to the practice. And so we offer our team coaching program. But it is open to coaches that are trained in from other disciplines. So we do prefer that you are trained by an ICF or an International Coaching Federation accredited program. But even if not, we just like to have you have a conversation with one of our program advisors just so that we can ascertain the level of training you have so that you feel like you're going to be at home in our program. All right. And for those people that did not come from our individual LPCC program at Brown University, we offer a 2 or 3 hours of bridging material so that you can start out on day one feeling at home rather than disoriented by some different language. But if you're an ICF trained coach, it's all built on the same 8 core competencies and the ethical framework as well. So most people find their way pretty soon. Um, so what we're our program, before I get into the slides, is experientially based, which means that we co-train with a small cohort of about 24 people, up to 24 or 26 people, in 2 modules spread roughly over 3.5 months with some work in between, which we'll describe. And we want you in feet first. So you'll see slides in this presentation. You will not see slides in our training because we actually involve you in the experience of coaching through role plays and through conversations and breakouts and reassembling and debriefs so that you are really learning with the people that are present as much as you're learning from the trainers in the program. And that we want you trying things out as soon as you can so that you learn from the experience of trying things out rather than only content that is blasted at you either asynchronously or synchronously live in the program. So that we like to have a conversation about what we're teaching. And what we find is the people that tend to jump into our programs already have some lineage of experience professionally, either in coaching and or somewhere else that they bring in and really enriches our space. So we like to bring all that in. So that people can benefit from everybody present rather than just a bunch of content thrown at you from a few trainers. Okay. Katie, anything that we should pick up on at the moment? Sort of an immediate question or?
I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay. So if questions come up along the way, please drop them in the chat box and we'll have a bit of a Q&A at the end as well. So I'm going to head to a slide deck now. I promise you, let's see, there are 16 slides and one of them is just a welcome slide. So there aren't that many. We'll work our way through that. And then Katie, feel free to just verbally interrupt me if you like, just to say something just because I'm not going to be able to see you when I'm sharing this presentation. Okay.
Sounds good.
So let me get that started. I'll hit share. I'm on the first slide. And Katie, does it look like you can see the slide here?
Looks great. Yeah.
Great. All right. So team coaching program offered by ACT um, Leadership and Brown University School of Professional Studies. I'll say a little bit about ACT. The 3 letters we like to say stand for awareness, choice, and transformation. We bring awareness to a situation or with someone, help create awareness so that people feel like they've got a wider array of choice and they have enough agency to make that choice. And through that, they either have transformation themselves or they have a transformative impact on the people they're with. And so Mike and Aaron Hutchins, who are partners in life as well as in ACT, they have 2 young daughters, and they're in the Alexandria region, not just outside of Washington, D.C., created ACT 8 to 10 years ago, I think, and I've been there when I had more brown hair than I have now. So I'm a senior trainer with ACT and help co-create much of the material, not all of it. And so they've created a one-on-one coaching program, also an advanced coaching program, a leader as coach program for people that don't want to become a coach, but want to extend their leadership range with coaching, and of course the team coaching program that you're finding out about today. There is also an embodied program and another advanced coaching program that Aaron is just launching, which you will notice on the ACT website as well. And so you see a quote here from the now actually very recently departed dean of the School of Professional Studies. But nevertheless, I think it's a message that I think resonates with ACT, and it's why we've been able to partner successfully so long, is that we take a humanistic approach to leadership. Um, Me personally, I take a stand for returning humanity to leadership without losing the focus on results. And so that is my contribution to this sort of stance that we have between ACT and Brown about being responsible for our world and how do we encourage other people to be the same. So that's sort of the leadership philosophy. And stepping into the program now, it is built for people that are already trained coaches, and we just want people to feel like that they've got a good grounding in what it means to be a coach, the being and doing of coaching, in terms of some mindsets, skills, and the philosophy and approach of being a coach rather than another type of practitioner. It gives us a grounding. And indeed, the International Coaching Federation, the 8 competencies with all the sub-competencies for individual coaching is the foundation for the team coaching competencies. So they add 29 more sub-competencies in that framework of 8. And so all accredited programs that lead to the ICF Advanced Credential for Team Coaching need to honor and communicate these additional competencies. So if you take our program, it is an accredited coach training. If you're going for the advanced credential for team coaching, our program is accredited education for that program. It covers the supervision requirements and the education requirements. And later you'll see what other steps you need to take in order to get that credential. If you're not interested in that credential, that's fine. We still want to welcome you in the program. You may want to accumulate some continuing education credits or units in order to renew an existing credential you have with the ICF. And so our program hours and education does count towards renewal of an existing credential as well, if that's more applicable to you. So what's in the team coaching program? It has over 70 hours of training. Over 60% of it is synchronous learning, which means it's live, much like this format on Zoom, or 1 or 2 of the modules may be in person, depending on which cohort you want to join. And it's just over 3 months long. It starts with watching a video or 2 before you join us on day 1 and an orientation call. And then we have a 3-day program, module 1, more stuff in between, 3-day program, module 2, more stuff afterwards that, and culminating in a completion call. And I'll describe that in more detail in a few slides. So the timing of these is the same, whether it's in person or online. We generally meet 8:30 to 4:30. It's Eastern time, so sort of New York, East or Washington sort of time zone in the United States. They're Tuesday, Wednesday, and a Thursday, depending which cohort you're in. They're all 3 days. And it's co-led by 2 team coaches. We do have a fully virtual program, so you don't need to do any travel. We typically offer 1 cohort in the autumn, which is a hybrid program. Module 1 is in person and Module 2 is virtual, but we're just at the point of deciding perhaps to make Module 2 in person as well for this autumn in 2025, because we keep having the experience that people get to day 3 of Module 1 and we ask them, would you want to come back for Module 2? And 90% of the people say yes. Right? We just can't get them to think that way from the start. So this is our opportunity to try that out this year. So if you're looking at joining us in autumn from September through November, do know that there is the chance that Module 2 may also be in person. Okay. So that's the highest level. Here's a bit of detail. So I'll talk you through this verbally. It might be a little bit small to see on your screen, but there is a version that is on the website as well. So maybe Katie, you might drop that link into the to the website. And on the website, you will see this diagram that explains about the 5 parallel streams of training. It also has an introduction video by Aaron Hutchins and me on site at the School of Professional Studies, just to give you a high-level view of the program, and some video testimonials and other descriptions. So there's a lot of information on the website. We can take a little bit of a look at that later. But the first stream I'll talk about is depicted in yellow here at the top. We've described that there's module 1, 3 days, and then there's an intervening month, and there's another 3-day module that we call module 2. Okay, the first one we call from one to many, and then the second one sort of deepens the theory. After Module 1, we start a supervision program, which is either 90 minutes or 2 hours with a subset of your group, up to 10 people out of your cohort, and a supervisor, sort of a trainer from a program that talks, it helps create some reflection about you becoming a team coaching practitioner. So this is not mentoring or taking a recording of a session and getting feedback on it. This is more describing your growing edge as a professional in this kind of modality, right? What kind of things are you coming up against? Does it take to be a team coach? Do you have some smooth edges and some rough edges? How is that a reflection of where you are in your sort of personal or professional journey? And that is an integrated component in our program. It is expected by the ICF of an accredited program, and we offer 5.5 hours. So the first meeting is 90 minutes, and the next two are both 2 hours each, giving you over 5.5 hours of supervision. And the ICF minimum is 5 hours. So that's embedded in our program. The dark blue middle row here, we call the field application session. And that is a project that you do with another participant that we partner you with on day one of module 1 to actually go do a team coaching assignment with a real team of your choice. All right. We like to say this it's low bar for high learning. Okay. So we just need you to find some sort of group of people that is trying to get something done so that you can spend about a 90-minute session with them at first with your co-coach and go back after module 2 and do a check-in of at least 30 minutes with them. So we just want you to get a little bit of practice out in the field. So when you come back from module 2, you've got more focused questions and a little bit of experience under your belt so that you feel like you can really get some real practice learning and questions answered. We have a bit more description about what that looks like on our website, and also when you're welcomed into the program, we have some materials that sort of outline what that program is for you. But it's a little bit of in the field practice so that you start to find your sea legs in team coaching. The fourth row there we call office hours. This is an optional part of the program, but these are 3 hours spread over the duration of the program where a faculty member is available for you to ask questions of. And you don't even need to be there to benefit from it. We allow you to submit questions that we try to answer on the recorded call for you. So if you can't make the time to come to the call, you still have a chance at having your question answered. So that's open office hours like you might get with any professor in some higher learning or institution, just to give you a chance to have some free-form conversation with your peers and one of our trainers. And finally, we have a self-paced learning assignment. And really, it's a document that leads you through a series of questions, some reflections for you to write about. We ask you to read a book and write just a few paragraphs or half a page on some of the learning you can apply from that book, and interview a team leader out in the field somewhere just to get to know what their experience is of leading a team out in real organization in the world. We ask you just to do a little bit of reflective writing and submit that guide before the end of the program, simply as evidence that you've done that asynchronous or personal learning, so that we have a sort of an audit record for the ICF, so they know that you've actually spent those hours doing that reflection and doing that work. So those are the 5 parallel threads of the program. Any questions, Katie, coming in that we should look at now?
We haven't had many. I did get a question about the field application session and how it can be handled if people aren't physically co-located. So you can definitely hold the field application session virtually.
Definitely, yes. So it's great if you can be in person. We have a course producer that joins us on the live modules, who tries to work all sorts of magic with all of the different sort of factors of who should be paired with whom, in which time zones, are they allowed to let anyone into the organization where they have a team they want to coach with, etc. And these, we typically recommend you either do it in person with the group if you can. Most people, at 75% of people or more, do it virtually using Zoom or some other platform that they can use for video conferencing. So that's certainly possible.
And one more question, Ashley, you might want to answer now is what aspects of the ACTC certification requirements are not included in the program?
I will get to that in another slide. And Katie, you bring it back to my attention if I don't seem to answer it, okay? Great. Well, one of the things, speaking of ACTC, I wanted to mention on the right-hand column here is your path to that credential. So first of all, you get the education from ACT, right? So it includes the education hours and the supervision hours that are expected. You receive that certificate. There's some additional requirements. Mostly it's about, there's two things. It's a little bit more experience. So they want you to document about 5 team coaching assignments, 2 of which have some sort of proof. So that's 5 team coaching engagements, and to write their exam. So I call it the 3 E's: education, exam, and experience. Those are the 3 things they expect. Okay. And then once you've done those things, they will issue you the ACTC credential from the ICF. Right? What you get from ACT is a certificate from Brown University and a certificate from ACT saying that you've got the education requirements to apply, or the continuing education units you want to use for renewal of an existing credential. All right. So what's in this thing? Module 1, we set the foundation. We call it from one to many, and there is about a 70 or 75 page guide that we ask you to print, or if you come to a in-person module, we print for you. It includes a description of some of what teams and team coaching is. We introduce our pathway, which is sort of a light framework that carries you through a team coaching engagement. We call it the easier pathway. It's an acronym that takes you right from engaging with a team up front all the way to R, which is review, right? Sort of landing the plane at the end of an engagement. There are 5 practitioner mindsets. So many of you may be familiar with some form of mindsets or stances of coaching that guide your behavior as a coach, and over 20 skills that we taught you about in terms of how do you use those skills that, in a team format. Right, which has another degree of complexity to it because of the dynamics of a group rather than just the dynamics of 2 people in a coaching conversation. So we do talk about initiating that relationship with a team's leader. We do work with the idea of the reactive stance of a team or the creative competencies teams may be showing. Some people may look at this as the tone or the energy of a team, how to be sort of in dialogue with that, and how to be in dialogue with the team as its own entity rather than all of the individuals in it. We talk about the team being the client of coaching in accordance with the ICF competencies. And we have lots of practice. So we tend to have a conversation and introduce something. Then we'll have you do an exercise. It may be a role play. It may be a conversation. It may be another more focused skill drill exercise. And then we come back and we compare your experiences and debrief
I
that
found
to
some new places to.
learning. Yeah.
Oh, there's a.
So we do have a lot of there's not a lot of talking at you, right? We do like to hear all the voices of in our courses, and which is why we have the small cohorts, about 24 to 26 people, because we want people to get to know each other and to have dialogue with our trainers as well. So it's a great opportunity to meet some other practitioners out in the world. And we have some people that end up continuing to do business together or to learn together after our program, which we always like to see. Between the modules, there's about 20 hours of work or so to do, spread across those streams that you saw on our previous slide. So there's supervision sessions to show up for. There are office hours that are optional to show up for. There's a field application session assignment that you will do with another participant, and continue your self-paced learning, reading the book, interviewing a team leader, reflecting on a series of videos that we provide for you that represent a team coaching engagement. So there is some work to do before you come back for the second module. One of these things is a field application session. So we do our best to pair you with another participant in the program, and you are asked to identify a team that can come from either one or both of you. If you want to do two, you're quite welcome to do that. But it's a team that you source that is willing to engage with you for at least one 90-minute session and at least one 30-minute session after that. They can be longer. They just need to be minimum of those durations for the two contact points. And we ask that you meet and debrief with your team's leader as well before going in to do the work and after to get a bit of feedback. All right. We do have a suggested timeline for that. So we offer you some milestone dates. They're not firm. We just want you to feel on track so that we give you some milestone dates so that you can sort of organize yourselves with your co-coach. And then you will debrief with another pair. So, you know, they've got a coaching pair. We'll do one field application session. Another coaching pair from your cohort will do another session. And we'll ask you to meet before coming back from module 2 just to compare your learning so that when everybody comes back into module 2, everybody can cross-pollinate their learning. So we like to get as much of the field learning back into the room as we can for before module 2. Also, before coming back from module 2, your supervision sessions will start. So as I said before, there are 3 sessions. One is 90 minutes. The other 2 are 2 hours each. It's up to 10 people in that group. So there are smaller groups with a supervisor. Right now, it's either Nick Kettles or Tina DeMeus, both accredited coaches and team coaches. And there are 2 sections. Either there's a morning section that starts at 8 a.m. Eastern time, or there is a midday section that is at noon Eastern time. And so we ask you to sign up for all of the 8 a.m. slots or all of the noon slots. Okay. And just as a reminder, this does not require you to make any recordings or do any team coaching in these sessions. But some questions you might have acquired from the field, or you might have experienced something, you might want to bring a case in for the group to discuss. And so that's the type of activity that you will find in the supervision program. Then we come back for module 2, right? And in module 2, we show you a little bit more of the underpinnings of that easier pathway that we described. So we rely on some published research about conditions for team success. We also put a little bit more specific attention on matters of inclusion in team coaching. And we give you a few additional practitioner skills and also start to explore your range as a practitioner, right? You can imagine that showing up in a room of people sometimes it might stretch you a bit. And so which ways, you know, do you need to stretch so that you've got a wider range as a team coach practitioner? We talk about designing for and meeting conflict in the room. And then we also take you through a case study exercise where you are in touch with a fictitious team leader, Sam from Frozen Foods, who is put a team together. And so that we have you practice in some role plays, some of the concepts you've been learning so you can get some feedback. We also discuss some real engagements that our faculty have been involved in, so you can see how we have adapted or made use of the easier pathway, so you get a sense of how this stuff really plays out in the real world. And we also do a half-day worth of role plays, practicum, so that you get some feedback from your peers and the trainers before you leave module 2. After that, there's about 10 more hours. So you need to attend another supervision session or two. So total three in the whole program, but at least one of them is after module two. Return to your practice team for your follow-up session and complete your self-paced learning. So the book, the interview, some reflective writing. Um, and then you'll end up at the completion call. So here's a little bit about the self-paced learning. I guess it's three pictures. Obviously, there's looks like we're giving you a checklist, a book, and a video. So the checklist is just an indication of there are about 6 or 7 things we ask you to do. One of those things is read a book, and we do have a case study video series. It's about 2 hours long or so that we ask you to watch that. And some of those videos are used in the live modules, and so you'll see them a couple times so you can assess them from different angles. So you can see how easier the framework is being applied in some role play situations so that you see stuff more than once. Okay. And that brings you to completion. We join for a 1 hour call, which is an opportunity to share some learning from your field application session, check-in session, also just what you've been learning over the whole program, and an element, of course, of celebration, right? Because you've done your 70 hours, you have done your field application session, you've been through all your supervision, you've completed your self-paced learning guide and submitted it. And so we offer you this certificate that has the continuing education units and or the approved education for team coaching. That's what the AATC means on the bottom of this image here. And it sets you up if you want to apply for your advanced credential. So what's next when you want to apply for your ACTC, if that's what the direction you're heading? So we focus on the education, which is 70 hours of education, and the supervision is included in there. You are responsible for practice. So that's five engagements, 2 of which need some sort of proof, usually a letter from the team's leader or somebody on the team to say that you did it, and also writing the exam. So that's what happens on your way to the ACTC credential, right? When you get our certificate, your education is checked off, so you need your experience and you need to write the exam, and that comes from the ICF. We actually embed some of the exam practice questions, the sample practice questions into our program, so you get a feel for what those questions are like when you get to the exam, okay? There's another checkbox at the bottom there about our alumni program. So the learning doesn't stop just because you finish our program. We have an alumni program who are graduates from our one-on-one coaching program, the advanced coaching one-on-one coaching program, and our team coaching program to continue their learning. And so we have some seminars, interviews, panel discussions, and some of those offer additional continuing education units so that if you want more continuing education units to keep your credential up to date, it's available in our alumni program. Gives you some access to some of the to some of the faculty as well. We have coaching dojo sessions. I know Katie leads some of them as well, just to sort of keep you in touch with your other people in our AT community and answer your questions. There is also this year in November, I think it's the 6th and 7th, it's a Friday and Saturday, is our Alumni Connect conference, which we run in person at the School of Professional Studies in Providence, Rhode Island, in their new education center, which is just off the hill, but right close to downtown. So it's really well situated for learning and also for experiencing everything Providence has to offer. And that is a gathering of our alumni that we do every 2 years just to bring ourselves together and to continue our learning. So if you want to apply, there is a link that we'll show you on our website. It will take you to a form that looks a little bit like this. It starts off like this, just to get your particulars. Write a paragraph or 2 about why you want to become a team coach. Describe a little bit about your initial one-on-one coach training, just so we know if you're going to feel at home when you join our program or if we need to have another conversation to make that link. we review that application and then we admit you into the program. And then just before the program starts, you are invited to our Mighty Networks platform. So it's our cohort hub or cohort space where it gives you a platform for being in touch with your other participants, sort of a discussion area. We also, it's like a little bit of a learning platform so that you are led through the content, what you need to do when in sequence, with reminders from our stellar program manager, Nicole Sueda, who's always available to help you if you're not quite sure what to do online or what comes next, and you haven't been able to figure it out online. She's always at the other end of a phone call or an email for you to help you along. So, once you're accepted, there is an orientation call that kicks you off that puts you in touch with all those resources. It is optional, but we do like you to show up so you can meet some of the other people you'll be learning with. You'll meet at least one of your trainers on that program. You'll kick off your bridging content if that's applicable to you, and there's an introduction video to watch. It's less than 15 minutes long. And that just sets up one of the first conversations we do when we get to module 1. All right. And that's it. That's slide 16, the one that's content free, but just has you feel welcome. So I'll stop there. That is probably, other than maybe the first hour of module 1, the most talking you'll ever hear from an ACT trainer, because we're much more dynamic than that usually. Hands up if you've already been part of an ACT program. I just want to see, or just send an emoji out there. Yeah. No, I see some familiar faces already. Great. So feel free to type in the chat anything about you find special about having been part of one of our more interactive sessions. Katie, anything we should touch base on now before we go to some logistics?
I was just typing an answer to Nathan about if there is a benefit to completing the next level training prior to team coaching. So maybe we can answer that out loud
Oh,
instead.
there's always a benefit because it's a great program, but I don't think there's anything there that you're going to, well, let me say this. It might help you read the room a bit more, I'd say. But I'd say that it's not, you shouldn't feel obligated to do that before you go into the team coaching program. All right. So if you feel drawn to deepen your practice as a one-on-one coach, I'd certainly look at joining the next level coaching program. I think it's good to have a few, a little bit of time under your belt as a coach to benefit from either program. Yeah. Any other questions we should look at there, Katie?
I don't believe so, but it looks like Larkin has a question.
Yeah. Hi, Larkin.
Hey, Ashley, it's great to see you. I was wondering if you could
Likewise.
talk a little bit about the how conflict is how navigating and supporting teams to work through conflict is supported as part of the program. I see conflict a couple places in the ICF standards, and I'm curious. I'm also
Yeah.
considering a mediation training, so just some more color you could provide.
Certainly, yes. And I've noticed it's getting quite dark here. I'm actually in Europe at the moment, and I've got one source of light, and so that's why the sun is setting. So my apologies for slowly disappearing from your screens. So as a big picture context, Larkin, to your question, I'll say that this is an introductory team coaching program, right? So it does say the advanced credential in team coaching. It's the credential, it's advanced compared to one-on-one coaching, right? But for team coaching, it's a initial runway. So the way we look at coaching is through a few lenses, through the idea of reactive and creative, which you'd be familiar with from your original program, about when we're at low choice and low awareness, versus when we're high awareness and high choice. And what does that look like in a group? How do you meet that in a room, right? When that happens, how do you reflect that experience back to the room rather than deny or try to manage it, right? Another lens we look through is if we look through the lens, two lens. One is designing for and meeting, and so we try to set a foundation with teams so that conflict is either less likely or happens in a more constructive way. So, for example, the idea of co-creating a relationship, which you'll all know from any accredited one-on-one coach training, the idea of what are the road rules of the norms we want to stand by, and what's going to happen and how do we call them out if they seem to be contravened, right? So that's an example of designing for example. Another uh, angle is by meeting it. So there is a way of we actually try to put some of our practitioner skills into the hands of team members so they can use them with each other and raise the quality of their dialogue. There might be skills such as pausing, or asking questions, or paraphrasing, or sensing the tone of or the mood of a room, and how that is affecting the quality of the dialogue. And so that's what we draw from the meeting conflict angle. So a little bit of skills transfer, a little bit of setting up the norms in the first place, two ways of looking at conflict. What I will say is that it's introductory material, right? You can do a lot of work in describing, meeting, and working with conflict. I mean, there's lots and lots of material out there, which is all valuable, and it can't all be distilled into elements of 2-3 day courses. So I'd say that we'd use our material as a start. It's a framing. And what I like about our easier pathway and the framing that we take to being a team coach practitioner is that there's always space for you to add in more depth as a practitioner from other modalities, for you to use as a practitioner. What other questions are out there, Katie?
Those are all the questions. And if I missed anybody's question in the chat, please let us know. And if you have questions now, please come off mute and let us know, or you can put them in the chat.
Well, just as people are gathering the questions, why don't we take them on a tour of the ACT website, just so people know what it looks like. And the one usability thing I like to point out so that people don't get lost when they're trying to find their way. Great. So Katie has been sharing the banner page from the team coaching program. So you'll get to this if you go to the ACT menu at the top there, click on for individuals, and you'll see team coaching as the third option in that menu. It brings you to this page here. And right under the ACT and Brown logos, you'll see 2 buttons and 4 other sub menus. And that's what looks a little bit hidden. So the overview and the program dates and curriculum, faculty, and apply now, those 4 things are actually other pages you can click on, which will give you further information. So we'll go there in a minute or two. If you're just desperate to apply, you hit the big yellow button. If you want to talk to a program advisor, that'll send an email to one of us so you can be in touch if you've got some further questions that haven't been answered today. And further down this page is just a high-level view of what's in the program. This is the informational program you're on. There's the video with Aaron Hutchins and me. And if you fill in this page, you'll either get a link to the previous webinar that we did, informational webinar, or if you wait a few days, you'll get a link to the recording of this webinar. It gives you a little bit of a high-level view of the accreditations of this program, and there's that diagram again that shows you the 5 streams of activity in our program. Underneath that are some student testimonials as well, that you can hear right from people that were recorded right on campus in the School of Professional Studies building. So back at the top, we'll show you, we can get some program dates and information about what's included. So clicking on that, those 2 words there will give you a sense for what's coming up. So we're in the middle of our winter cohort now. They're meeting for Module 2 the first 3 days of April. Spring Module 1 starts the week after that on April 8th. And so this was the entirely virtual, no travel option. And that concludes in late June. So both of those 2 modules are virtual. And what's listed here under the supervision calls and completion call, these are all of the live portions you need to show up for. So we'd like you to know those dates up front so that you can plan for them. And under that, you'll see the fall. It's called hybrid. It may switch to in-person. Either way, Module 1 will be in person September 16th through 18th in Providence, Rhode Island at the School of Professional Studies. And we're just debating now, we should decide within about 3 weeks if the Module 2, November 4th, 5th, and 6th, is going to be in person as well. Those will be the dates. So if it's a virtual module, those will still be the dates. The ACT Alumni Connect gathering or conference is on November 7th and 8th in the same building. And so that's why we're tempted to make this in person, and perhaps we can convince some of the people to stay an extra couple days and join us for the alumni program. Okay, and similarly, there are some supervision calls and a completion call that are expected. You'll see that there are two options there of the 8 a.m. section and also the noon section. Or 11, I should say, 11 and 12:30 p.m. section. Okay, so those are the dates. And then if you, there's a little bit about our faculty. So you'll see pictures of our people who will be training you. It's either me or Nimrit Dariwal or Tina DeMeus. Our supervisors are Nick Kettles and Tina DeMeus, both located in Europe at the moment. And of course, our founders, Aaron Hutchins and Mike Hutchins. And we should really have Nicole there. Mental note, Katie. I thought she was in
Make
there.
a note of that.
She's definitely figures prominently in the cohort space once you enroll and you're invited to our learning platform. So if you want to apply, click that Apply Now button or any Apply Now button that you see on the page. You'll see that there are the tuition costs that are outlined here. There are some discounts that we offer to people in certain categories. So if you fit those categories, make sure that those are offered to you by those deadlines. There are some payment guidelines here. There is a small fee for processing your application. This form will lead you to answer some questions just about you and your desire to be a coach and what your foundational training has been. It will also just cover a few things just for clarity about this being even if it's remote, it's still a live program. So the live portions of the program, the ICF expects you to be on camera and available for dialogue at all times. That's an ICF requirement for any virtual program. That we do want to touch on matters of inclusion as a robust practitioner of a team coach, but this is not sort of an inclusion or an equity introductory program. But we want to align with those principles as we become proficient practitioners of team coaching. And I think that's it. Oh, and just for the modules 1 and 2, they can be long days. So set up those days as if you were traveling, if you're virtual, because we do have 8 hours when you're with us. Plus, we do ask you to do some reading or watch some videos or do some reflection before you come back for the next day. So there may be about an hour or so of homework after days 1 and 2 of each module as well. And we just want people to know that so that their regular family and life obligations and work obligations are somehow handled or organized so that you're not overly drained when you're joining us for Module 1 and Module 2. Okay. Boy, that's a lot of talking. We have about 8 minutes left to field some questions, and then we'll bid you farewell for now. What can we answer for you?
There's one here in the chat, Ashley. How are the field application sessions during the program and then the 5 experience hours after the program different?
Yes. Well, the field application session is we ask you to get your feet wet, practicing with the team, and make use of some of the mindsets and skills in a sort of a compact format and get a little bit of feedback, right? You could extend that if your team is willing to visit them after the check-in session to continue into a longer team coaching engagement if they're willing. And that could potentially develop into one of the 5 engagements that you need to document for your ACTC application. for your ACTC application, they expect 5 sort of engagements. And in the engagements, they realize that this kind of engagement may not be 100% team coaching. You may do some training. You may do some facilitation. You may do some consulting based on if it's within your bailiwick and within your competency. And it's part of what we talk about on day one is that often team coaching is part of a larger program. And so what they want you to do on your application is identify what sort of the engagement is that you've done and how much of it or what portions of it were pure team coaching. So that they know that it's probably often part of a bigger program, but they do want you to think about what is that delineation and at what times were you coaching versus what times were you doing something else that might have been related but not coaching. And so those are experience sessions that you need to do after you get your certificate from us. You can do it in parallel, but we don't have any sort of jurisdiction or involvement with those engagements, other than if maybe you use your field application session as one of them.
And then there's a question here, to what extent is the content based on a particular theoretical approach?
Oh, great question. We do use the stages of adult development, Keegan and Leahy, and also 16 Conditions, Ruth Wagman and Ackman and their colleagues as sort of the principal works that we base, principal research that we base our work on. But we like to say we are otherwise agnostic, especially when it comes to diagnostics or assessments. We think assessments are really valuable. In fact, the A in the easier pathway stands for assess. And we think there are numerous ways to assess through interviews, through introductory sessions, through some survey-based instruments or assessments, if you like. So we take a little bit of an agnostic approach, saying all those are valuable, but we want to develop you into a practitioner that is adaptable enough to adapt easier our pathway to the type of client that is in front of you. All right. So I think I'll stop there. Yeah. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Great. Good stuff.
That's all I have from the chat. So if there are any other questions, we still have a couple more minutes.
Hopefully that's been answering a lot of the questions. Program advisors are available for you to have a conversation with, and if there's something that they feel they can't really answer adequately, they find their way to me, and I help them out with some answers, or you may end up on a very brief call with me just to chat about what you need to make your decision either way. Okay.
Yeah, I'm putting in the chat here for you if you'd like to meet with a program advisor, if you have specific questions or contexts. We're always happy to talk with you. So you can just email info@actleader.com and we'll take care of that. There's also a button on the website for you to click if you'd like to schedule a time with a program advisor.
Looks like Jillian's got a question.
Yes, one other question in regards to the team engagements. Is there a size requirement or size limit for number of participants? Because I thought I saw somewhere that it was like you might need a co-coach over certain 15 participants.
Well, as a practicing ICF team coach, if you have, I think the limit is 15 people in your team, you're required to have a co-coach with you. I think that it starts to stretch. What is the definition of a team? When you have that many people, are they really interdependent for a common cause or a common purpose, which is an elements of the definition that we operate by? And does it start to evolve into what you might consider group coaching rather than team coaching, right? So spoiler alert, we discussed that on day one, right? What the differences might be, so you can figure out what kind of modality you actually want to be operating in. On the other end, it would be better to have more than 2 people in your team. Otherwise, 50% of the room is going to be team coaches, right? And so you get a much better conversation going if you have 4, 5, or 6 people. Now, if you're working with a couple and they don't mind having half the room being coaches, and you can, they are trying to do something, you can have an effective dialogue with them, it will serve the purpose for your learning inside this program. We'd rather have you do that than nothing at all. Ideal, you'd have like 8 or 9 people, or 6, let's say 6 to 8 people would be ideal. 2 coaches, 6 to 8 people. That's a comfortable amount of people to have on a Zoom panel, if you're doing it virtually or in a room.
Ashley, I was just about to answer this question and I realized it might have changed. Application deadlines?
Oh, we'd have to pop up the screen because I do try to memorize them, and then I'm terrible at it, so I don't want to misinform you.
Yeah, let's look right here. I know
Um,
that we have early bird deadlines. So if you want to get the early bird discount, you will need to apply before those dates. Otherwise, I believe they stop taking applications within, is it 3 days of the program start, Ashley?
Yes, it is. The information is under the apply now here, so you'll see the deadlines just under the tuition things there. And we have had people join us within about a 3-day period of the first of day one. There just is a matter, I think, of having completed your payments before you join the join day one of module 1. So if you've got a concern about, for example, if somebody else is paying for your training and you might need to go through a bit of a process in order to have that happen, please speak to a program advisor, and we'll do our best to find the path that is the least friction for you.
I'm going to put this link in the chat here for you to visit as well. And so this has the early bird deadlines.
Okay.
There we go.
So before I disappear entirely to the dark side of the moon, I would like to say, first of all, thank you for spending the time with us here. We know there's lots and lots of questions you have before you step into spending your resources on any program. We know that you have a choice of programs out there. We hope that you'll find some sort of kinship with ours, but we do want to make sure that you choose a program that is a good fit for you. So if we've answered your questions, great. We look forward to seeing you. If you still have more questions, please contact a program advisor, and we'll be sure to do our best to answer the questions in a timely fashion for you. So thank you as well to the familiar faces. Nice to see you again. Welcome to anyone I haven't met before, or that you're watching this as a recording, and perhaps we'll see you down the coaching road somewhere. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.